To Business and Life Advice with Ataande Advisors. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow angel investor with me, Rodrique, who's based out of Tanzania and is also the founder of Serengeti Angels, an angel network based in Tanzania. So, can you introduce yourself a bit as we get started?
Yes, my name is Rodrique Msechu. I'm based out of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. We pride ourselves as being the most active angel network in Tanzania. We primarily do deals with founders who are locally based or solving problems for our Tanzanian market.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about Tanzania. What makes Tanzania special as a place to invest? Like, granted, you're from there, so obviously you want to invest it, but why would other people want to look at your market?
At Tanzania, there's so many reasons, but very quickly, the size of Tanzania, if you know Kenya, it's probably double the size of Kenya, almost double the size of France. Then in terms of land, it's arable. We've conserved a lot of space, a lot of nature as well, but we are bordered by 8 countries, 6 of which are landlocked. So think of Malawi, think of DRC Congo, and think of Burundi, Rwanda, who use our port to get goods in. So lots of opportunities along different value chains, but we also have a lot of wealth in terms of mineral resources. Then the young population, because I think the medium age is around 17 years, so lots of opportunities. And I can go on and on, but in my sector, because we back tech-enabled startups, there is a lot of inefficiencies in how everything works, and that brings in opportunities to solve those inefficiencies.
Yeah, I experienced that on the integration line.
Yes.
So I hope there's somebody who can come in and
who can solve that.
Now, I would love to learn more about your story. Like, what led you to become an angel investor, create an angel investing network? What's your story behind that?
Okay. Well, I studied in Kenya. I worked with the trade office of the Embassy of France, helping French companies to enter East African markets.
Okay.
So I was based in Nairobi, but with a focus on Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia. And then I decided to go back to the country, still doing a bit of the same work, but now expanding to international companies coming in. Then, because I was passionate to see how I can help my people, but also how I can make money. So I got a few requests from VCs who wanted to invest in Tanzania, and I didn't understand the space. So I did a bit of research, then found that there is a gap, the missing middle as we call it, where those startups that need between 10,000 or say 50,000 to 100,000 have no one who is willing to support them. But also the fact that very few people know about Tanzania as an investment destination for startups makes it super risky. So there's an imbalance in terms of the perception of the risk and the actual risks. Mm-hmm. And the best way to mitigate that is to get people in Tanzania put in the hard-earned cash, so that a VC who's not there can at least say, okay, I feel like if local people have invested, maybe there's an opportunity for us as well. So that's the premise that got us to start the Angel Network. But we also did the work of getting our compatriots to jump into the deep end, because we really asked them, you have to commit at least $1,000. We'll take you through the process, and afterwards, you've done your first deal. It's up to you to decide. Do I want to join this angel network? Do I want to form mine? Or do I want to invest independently?
Wow. So really the gap in the market, you're saying, is really the pre-seed or friends and family rounds at that point for these startups. So if they're not even able to get over the hump, they can't get to seed or VC, Series A, B rounds. Very interesting. And how is what is it like trying to convince a local population to invest in asset class, which is traditionally seen as very risky, right? Like I'm an angel investor, I love it, but I think it comes from being a founder, right? A founder who's like, hey, I want to see this growth, I want to change the ecosystem, I want to help people achieve their dreams. What is it? But I also come from an American perspective with that, right? What is it like trying to convince locals to believe in this type of asset class, believe in investing in startups?
I mean, it's the approach. It's not easy, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've started a few startups or concepts from high school. A lot of failures, but that excites me. And that's why when I was employed, I knew I wanted to branch out. So with the same mindset, you take it as a challenge. How would I convince my compatriots to invest? And I started with having my friends go in and lowering the ticket sizes. Those who tried before were asking for at least $10,000. So $10,000 and $500 to be part of a network is quite a hard sell, given that in Tanzania you have treasury bonds that would give you 12% and north of that. And so that was a hard sell. So what I did is I knew my friends trust me enough to say, if I put $1,000, I trust this guy. If he loses it, our relationship is worth way much more. That's the starting point. Afterwards, you now build on that and say, who do they know? And I was also deliberate to recruit people who are trusted in the ecosystem. I mean, fast forward to us launching the second cohort of an accelerator training Angels, which we did recently. When I did the press release, one of the angels that took part in the accelerator was the permanent secretary of a ministry, and his minister then was the current president. And he was saying this in public, that when I was permanent secretary, the president asked me, well, she was then minister, to work with Silicon Valley investors to see how this could be rolled out. But now, in retrospect, I know that I didn't know a lot. So the program has helped me, but I'm also willing to help and have conversations with the government. He's done 2 deals with us. So now it's easier for him to say, I have invested myself.
That's amazing, and it seems like what you're doing a lot of that work, which I think people don't realize angels, and especially people who run angel networks do. It's not just deploying money, right? It's the educational piece you must do to build up that network, especially if there's no infrastructure or education or culture around investing in that way. And I think it's
absolutely
interesting in letting people know, hey, start with $1,000, something that is worth less than a relationship, right? Something that you're not going to get too upset at if you lose. And then you see people want to do more, or they'll start. It's easier to bet than say, hey, bet all of this at one time. And I was just talking with Abigail from NIBIN, the Nigerian Angel Network, and it seems like
Nairobi.
Yeah, Nairobi. Sorry, from the what did I say?
NIBIN.
Yes, from the Nairobi Angel Network. Thank you so much. And it seems like they also have that $1,000 ticket size. Well, they're setting $20,000. They're doing $20,000, but they're pulling $1,000 up. And I'm wondering, is that the strategy? Let's say across. I know we're focusing a lot on Tanzania, but is that the strategy across Africa, really, to see in the markets that don't have developed angel networks or a startup investment culture? Is it, hey, let's build this network where people have to put together minimal amounts. It's not made $1,000, still a lot of money, but a minimal amount to get to activate them. Would you think that's something that's can spread across the rest of sub-Saharan Africa?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that model would work. But how we got there, for us as Serengeti Angels, we came from the premise of saying, look, Angel investment is not new to Africans. And these case studies, there's a Harvard case study of a tribe, the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, and how they do it. In Tanzania, there is the Kinga tribe that is from the south west islands, and then you have another tribe up close to the Rwandese border that do similar things. So you don't go through a formal education, but you come in, I have a business, I mentor you for some time, give you capital, and it takes off. So that's the premise that we say we want to introduce angel investment. And as we were thinking through how we do it, you want to build on something that's very close to what people can identify with. Now, what did not work before was an accredited angel investor in the US should have a net worth of at least $200,000 or making $100,000 a year, etc., etc. So now, with that, everyone says, okay, that's out of reach. I probably don't make that amount of money, etc., etc. So we're building, but maybe something very important to mention is the fact that Naiban, the founder, was very helpful to me with tips. But we are also very conscious that we are trying an experiment. We are trying to work with what we have, and we are trying to do research as well. And then I think 5 years down the line, we'll have more data, we'll have more confirmations on what model should really scale. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds just like a startup, right?
It is. It definitely is a startup. Maybe just to add onto this, when we did the first accelerator, that was this year from January to April, at the back of it, we got a partner to help us pay a consultant to do research on what we are doing. Is it scalable? Is it feasible? And that we published that. It's on our website, Tanzania Business Angel Feasibility Study. So we got to have a number. How many angels can we convert in a year, in 3 years? What would be their profile, etc.
Wow. Wow. So that's exciting. I would love to know what drove you to do this, right? Because there's the excitement of running a startup, and I think this has been quoted a million times, right? You quit a 40-hour-a-week job to work a 100-hour-a-week job,
Yes.
right? For less pay, right?
Yeah.
For less pay, and hopefully get some upside. But I think it goes even further when you become an angel, right? Because now you're doing that and you're waiting for, at least pre-seed and seed stage, you're waiting for 7 to 12 years for an exit, right? If it works out. So what drives you?
There's many factors that drive me. One is the love for my country, our people, and seeing whatever you're doing has a huge impact on people. So here you see it firsthand. When you invest in something else, you probably don't get that good feeling. So that's one. But two, I feel that 20 years down the line, what would be my life? What would be the story that I tell about my life, about my country? So I'm very deliberate to tell that story and to create it. Picking up hard challenges is important for me. But third, there's a huge opportunity in the whole continent, and I'm tired of. And I think you also mentioned that like you tell people, hey, there's an opportunity to do media, and they don't do it. So I'm tired of pitching to foreign companies to say, hey, look, there's an opportunity in Africa, but they don't see it as I see it. So how do I convert that? I start somewhere, and I start by investing as an angel.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting because I believe in business. There's a few different ways to make money, right? There's a few different ways to get business, right? One, because you can do something other people can't, right? Maybe you have a specific skill set that other people, you can do things better, or you do things other people won't, right? and from that, that's what I'm hearing. Like, I got tired of people not wanting to do something that's very important. And I think that is something, some people look at angel investors as kind of like financiers, like bankers. And I think it's a whole different personality profile, because it's that impact. If you're doing this, yes, we need the returns, we want the returns, but it is also that love of country, right? That love of continent, that love of humanity, that pushes us to make these types of investments when we know the numbers, right? And we know the numbers and we know the likelihood for success. When it succeeds, there's no better feeling, but a lot of time it is.
They say. Yeah, and I want to put the spotlight back on you actually, because I was in the US a couple, 3 weeks ago. So it was eye-opening for me to see how things are in New York. It's super expensive. So I know you have so much options than doing this work and coming to Nairobi with the jet lag and all that. So I have to take my hat off and say, like, look, don't stop, keep doing it, and you're motivating more people, not only in the US but in the continent as well.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that. That means so much to me, especially being welcomed, right? Being welcomed, and I think that's partly what I'm trying to do here with this podcast and these videos, is showing other people we are welcomed, and there is a ton of opportunity, right? So my perspective in investing in Africa, other than my love of the continent, right, and my love of the people, was all my wealth is tied to the U.S., right? And what happens, God forbid, if it crumbles? What will I have, right? So it's out of love, it's out of hope for growth. But I think also people in this diaspora should also think, should your wealth be tied to one country regardless of what that country is, right? And looking back to the continent of Africa and saying, you know what, whatever country you pick, I'm going to put some money here, and we already do it. We send so much money back in remittances. Please, if we just change 50% of those remittances to capital that we're sending back and invest in these businesses, we'll create the jobs for our families so they don't need the money anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that I hope eventually we get. Like, I know people need bread, people need electricity, people need fuel. We know this, but I think we're thinking too short term. We think long term, we start investing in some of the great businesses in the homeland. Soon you'll see our cities, towns, villages filled with jobs and opportunities. Because there'll be people like you who's helping businesses, angels, get ready to succeed. Because it's not just the capital, it's also the knowledge, right? It's also the network being involved. Sorry, I got on my little stand a bit. You got me there.
No, I'm totally with you, and I completely agree. And just to add onto that, and some of the things I picked up when I was in New York, I stayed in Little Haiti, and my host took me around, and I saw what the Asians are doing there. And we went to have lunch in a place that used to be a market, but a real estate developer took it up. And so she was telling me that they had to lobby and get the real estate developer to leave a space for the community. And we had some nice, I think it was nice Asian food downstairs, subsidized so that the community can work. But we got into many conversations, and how things work is that you have to embrace your community and buy from them, mentor them, invest in them. And that, if you think about it, it's the same thing that our diaspora, African diaspora, and be it second, third generation, when you look back, when you give money for them to consume, you're giving a fish, but you have the opportunity to buy a whole boat and fishing rods and nets. So let's do it together. This has to be done together. It has to be, and the good thing is that there are players like myself, like Naiba, in Kenya, in Tanzania, that are willing to say, hey, let's come together, we'll do the work here. You bring in capital, bring in the knowledge, expertise. We talked a little bit about brain gain. So let's do that together. And good thing is now the world is a global village, so it's easy to...
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree about doing it together. I talk about, I'm not part of the Angels Network, but I couldn't do this without Eric Osiawa. I couldn't do this, what I do, my investments. He has placed me in the vast majority of the deals that I've made on the continent. Now I am looking, I said, okay, you know what, I may have to join an angel network because it's, regardless of what check side is on the right, it's better when we are together. Right? The cost of capital decreases in part because we can do better research together. We don't all have to pay for one lawyer, right? We all can just split the legal fees. We can really be able to and create the change and have a better voice. And not all the time, I mean, I have the time to interact with startups every single time. Maybe another person in the Angel Network may have. So,
and to add on to that context as well, if Eric is there and is in Ghana, he might add context to your perception of the deal.
Yes, and that's so true. That's happened so many times. I've looked at something, he's like, look, give this a real good look. I know it doesn't look great and it's not beautiful, but these guys have something. This guy is super persistent. Because it's one thing for the person telling me they're persistent, it's another thing for venture capitalists to say, you know, this person's because he's been chasing me down for 6-7 years. You need this is going to break through. Or they have this deal. So having people who can verify things, and I do that in, I guess, informal ways through my friends network, but being with a group of people who kind of have the same mission as you in terms of planting seeds of capital and intelligence into people. Right, so I would highly suggest looking at the various angel networks that are available in whatever country you're looking to invest in, and putting in your money, especially if it's $1,000. It's a great way to get your feet wet. Right?
True. And shout out to Eric. I met him in 2017. I was just moving back. He actually doesn't remember, but I was sitting in the audience and he was talking about investment and fundraising. Now I'm doing what he used to do. So I get called. But what I love about how Eric has approached, and I think real recognizes real, I talked to him and he told me, I've come to Tanzania a few times. I'm persistent. I've had my failures, but I really believe in that market and I believe in the young people there. And so I think it's easy for him to see someone who also has a belief that this problem, I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to be persistent until I have a solution.
Yeah, and that's what it takes a lot of times. Like in angels as well, it's that persistence. You don't flip the formula for success doesn't really change just because you have money now or you deploy money. It's that persistence. It's as you that togetherness, right? And I think that persistence kind of was led to you having was it the minister?
Yeah, the permanent secretary.
The permanent secretary, right? To being part of that. Think about the doors that are going to open up in the future now. Because networks are interesting in terms of once you start getting into this. Before I started angel investing, like I knew of some angels, but I didn't have deep relationships.
Yeah.
But once you start doing it and just put you now you're part of the circle. Right? Because we know how it feels, right? Exactly. So it's easier to bond and you start seeing, oh wow, I'm connected to this person and this person and this person. And you form relationships for yourself and for your business. So I can't wait to see 1, 2, 3 years what becomes who is part of Serengeti Angels now because of the work you did in 1, 2, 3 people who joined and then the branches start looking amazing.
Ripple effect.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to happen.
Me too, me as well.